Have you ever felt just completely overwhelmed trying to figure out how to, optimize your health? Especially when it comes to weight. It feels like one day it's keto, the next day it's plant-based, then you hear about macros, or maybe it's just, calories in, calories out. It's a lot. But what if there was a kind of shortcut? A way to understand the fundamental mechanics of how your body really works so you can feel your best and maybe reach your ideal weight naturally. That's really our mission for this deep dive. We're looking at optimizing your metabolism, how to reach your ideal weight naturally. We've pulled together some really impactful takeaways from 3 major books on weight loss and metabolism, basically distilled thousands of pages down into core, actionable wisdom just for you. And this isn't just about, dropping a few pounds. Not really. This is more about cutting through all that confusion, giving you a deeper understanding of how your body actually uses food, aiming for real, sustained well-being. We're going to unpack some genuinely surprising facts and, importantly, practical strategies, but without that usual information overload.
I'm here to explore these fascinating ideas right alongside you, trying to make these complex concepts, approachable.
And I'm here to help connect those dots, provide the crucial why it matters, synthesizing these different perspectives into something cohesive, something you can actually use. Get ready for some genuine aha moments. Might just change how you think about your body.
Okay, let's jump in then. When we talk about optimizing your body's mechanics for, say, ideal weight, one of the first really revolutionary ideas comes from Dr. Robert Lustig, his book, Fat Chance. Now, you might think the number on the scale or maybe the fat you can pinch, that's the big concern, right?
Yeah.
But what Dr. Lustig really zeroes in on is something called visceral fat.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating, is that Lustig points out this deep hidden fat around your organs. It isn't just a sign of being unhealthy. It's actually the single greatest predictor of your morbidity, your risk of disease.
Wow.
It's not just how much fat, but where that fat is located. And visceral fat, it's not passive storage. It's metabolically active, almost like an inflammatory organ inside you, constantly churning out chemicals that disrupt your hormones and, promote disease.
So it's not just sitting there. It's actively working against us. That's quite a thought. But how do we even measure something that's hidden inside?
Right. Good question. To make it practical, he highlights an incredibly simple yet really powerful metric. Your waist to height ratio. The goal, ideally, is for your waist circumference to be less than half your height. So less than 0.5 times your height.
Okay.
For instance, if you're, say, 72 inches tall, your waist should measure less than 36 inches. This shifts our focus from maybe broader things like BMI, which can be misleading, to a much more precise indicator of internal metabolic health. Because when insulin and leptin, those key metabolic hormones, get constantly disrupted by what we eat, they directly contribute to building up this dangerous visceral fat.
That really is a game changer for how many of us think about health. Moving beyond just BMI makes you want to find a tape measure right now.
Yeah.
But this idea of where fat matters, it gets even more interesting when we think about what we're actually putting into our bodies. And that's where Dr. Mark Hyman comes in. His book, Eat Fat, Get Thin. He just completely upends one of the most ingrained beliefs in diet culture. The whole calories in, calories out model, the energy balance theory. He states it pretty unequivocally. A calorie is not a calorie.
Yeah, and what's truly illuminating there is how Hyman contrasts that old energy balance theory with what he calls the metabolic theory. The long-held belief, often pushed by, let's say, certain industries, is simply that if you burn more calories than you eat, you'll lose weight. Simple math.
Right, that's what we always hear.
But Hyman argues, and frankly, it's common sense when you stop and think that, say, 1,000 calories from a Coke affect your body totally differently than the 1,000 calories from broccoli.
Totally different.
A soda calorie basically sends your liver into panic mode, triggers this massive insulin spike that screams store fat, whereas a broccoli calorie, it's metabolically pretty neutral. It delivers nutrients without causing that same harmful hormonal cascade. So different types of calories, from sugar, from ultra-processed stuff, what some call garbage or fast-acting carbs, they impact your metabolism and hormones in vastly different ways compared to, say, proteins, healthy fats, or slow-burn complex carbs.
So it's really not just about the amount of food, the quantity. It's the quality and the source that dictates how our bodies respond. Especially thinking about insulin and, metabolic optimization. That's a pretty profound shift in understanding for a lot of people, I think. And if we're honing in on the quality of food, there seems to be one prime suspect that kind of links all these metabolic disruptions together. According to Gary Taubes, in the case against sugar anyway, he basically frames his book like a criminal investigation. And sugar is the prime suspect in this whole epidemic of chronic diseases we're seeing.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Taubes makes a really compelling, almost chilling argument. While sugar has often been treated as just, a harmless pleasure, maybe something we eat too much of, he argues it's actually a chronic toxin.
A toxin. That sounds strong.
Well, think about it this way. If sugar made you violently ill instantly, like an acute poison, we wouldn't eat it, right?
No, of course not.
But because its effects are cumulative, they build up silently over decades, it's insidious, it flies under the radar. And what's truly alarming, I think, is his description of sugar as, and this is a quote, candy for cancer cells.
Wow. Candy for cancer cells.
Yeah. It's not just a catchy phrase. It highlights that sugar provides the ideal fuel source for many types of cancer cells, allowing them to just proliferate to grow. It raises a really critical question about how aggressively we should be trying to eliminate it or at least drastically reduce it from our diets.
Candy for cancer cells. That phrase definitely sticks with you. It really drives home that chronic cumulative impact.
Yeah.
Okay, so digesting all of that, what does this actually mean for us practically, for you listening right now? Building on these really powerful insights, it seems like there are 3, let's call them optimized food rules that emerge as direct applications, things that could radically transform your health.
Right. The first rule is actually very simple but profoundly impactful. Stop drinking sugar. This means cutting out sodas, obviously, energy drinks, sweetened teas, and yes, even fruit juices.
Even fruit juices. That's still often seen as healthy.
It is, but as Mark Hyman explicitly warns, fruit juice is not a health food. It's essentially concentrated sugar water. It hits your system incredibly rapidly in a very disruptive way because it bypasses the fiber you'd get in whole fruit, and that causes those exact insulin spikes we were just talking about, promoting fat storage.
That's a big one for many people, I bet. That myth about fruit juice being healthy is really persistent. What about fruit smoothies then? Are they in the same category?
Well, for optimal metabolic health, a fruit smoothie, especially one packed with high sugar fruits and maybe not much fiber or protein, still delivers a very rapid sugar load. It's generally always better to eat your fruit whole with all its natural fiber intact rather than drinking it in any form. Now, for the second rule, eliminate factory food and embrace real food.
Okay, factory food. And by that, you mean things like ultra-processed, nutrient-empty carbohydrates, factory-farmed animal products, maybe those highly processed fats like margarines and certain vegetable oils.
Precisely. These are foods that have been so altered, so stripped of their natural benefits, and often they're actually engineered to be hyperpalatable, to make you want more.
Right, you could just eat one.
Exactly. They actively work against your body's optimal functioning. They're basically designed to spike your insulin, hijack your satiety signals so you don't feel full, and directly contribute to building that dangerous visceral fat. They throw your metabolism completely off track. So the rule is simple. Avoid what's actively working against you. Focus on real whole foods.
It sounds so simple when you put it like that. Just avoid the things designed to work against our bodies. But it's often overlooked. Okay, and finally, the third rule for optimizing our metabolism.
The third rule is to practice what you might call an eating sunset. This basically means giving your body a solid break from digesting food. Aim for about 13 hours between your last meal of the day and your first meal the next morning.
13 hours, okay.
This isn't about starving yourself. It's about allowing your body time to engage in crucial cellular cleanup, a process called autophagy.
Autophagy, right.
Yeah, during this fasting window, your cells get a chance to literally eat and recycle old, damaged components, old proteins, malfunctioning parts. This is absolutely vital for fighting the aging process, for preventing disease, and promoting long-term cellular health. It definitely makes you think twice about that late-night snack, doesn't it?
It really does.
Our ancestors certainly weren't grazing 24 of these and none.
That's an amazing set of actionable steps, and all clearly rooted in some pretty profound scientific understanding. So, okay, let's try and bring these powerful threads together. Quick recap. We've learned about the crucial importance of visceral fat, that hidden health predictor, and how a simple waist-to-height ratio, keeping it under 0.5, is likely a far better indicator of health than something like BMI.
Right.
Then we explored that huge paradigm shift, moving away from just calories in, calories out, the old energy balance theory, to understanding the profound difference of what those calories actually are, that core idea. A calorie is not a calorie. Highlighting the vastly different metabolic impacts of, 1,000 calories from Coke versus 1,000 calories from broccoli.
A world of difference.
And finally, we heard that powerful, almost prosecutorial case against sugar. framing it as the prime suspect in so many chronic diseases, acting as this insidious chronic toxin. And that chilling phrase, candy for cancer cells.
Yeah. And from those core insights, we distilled those 3 practical, actionable, optimized food rules that you, listening, can actually implement starting today. First, stop drinking your sugar. Cut out the sodas, the juices, the sweetened drinks to avoid that metabolic disruption.
Okay.
Second, eliminate factory food. Ditch the ultra-processed carbs, the factory-farmed meats, the processed fats. Embrace real, whole food that actually supports your body.
Real food.
Got it. And third, practice that eating sunset. Aim for roughly 13 hours between your last meal at night and your first meal the next day. Give your body that crucial time for cellular cleanup, for autophagy, promoting long-term health.
Understanding these principles, it really feels empowering. It allows you to make informed choices for your own health journey. Moving beyond all the confusion and the conflicting advice out there, you really do have the knowledge now to take some control.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. If sugar really is, let's say, the Darth Vader of the food empire, constantly working against your metabolism, potentially feeding disease, what's one immediate small step you could take, maybe starting today, to unmask and reduce its influence in your own life? Especially knowing the chronic, cumulative impact it seems to have. Just something to think about as you go about your day.